Hi guys, I'm really excited to be here tonight talking about shift work and strategies for managing nutrition and sleep around shift work. If you don't know who I am, I'm Coach Kate, and just a heads up, I have a very lovely dog who also likes to bark a little bit, so should he start doing that, I will try to take care of it ASAP, and I apologize in advance. So I will just jump right in. So a lot of things that coaches hear from our members around shift work is that they really hungry, they're not quite sure how to manage timing their meals around like through their shifts or even between transitional days, as well as the lack of sleep and how hard that is. So I'm going to try to dive into all the amazing questions that people posted. Thank you so much for putting those on my posts in the Facebook group, and I will try to get through all of them. And if there's something that I don't touch on, you have a question about, just comment below and I will try to get back to every single one as soon as I can. So first of all, I thought it would be really helpful to explain a little bit about what your body is actually going through when you're on night shift in particular. So obviously, we have lots of lovely hormones in our body that give us information to our body to trigger certain feelings or changes in our body, and those can get thrown off while working night shifts. So a lot of you are familiar with melatonin, which is the hormone that we secrete at nighttime to tell our body to wind down and go to sleep. So with, sleeping during the day and being awake during the nighttime, your melatonin levels are going to shift kind of at a weird point. So you might not have quite as high quality sleep during the day, and that can increase hunger levels. So the kind of, I don't want to say complementary, but the opposite hormone to that is cortisol. So in the morning, our cortisol levels slowly rise, and that lets us know, okay, let's get out of bed, let's take on this day. So with less than ideal sleep, our cortisol levels can go up, and that can increase hunger and also some water retention. So if you're weighing in after night shifts and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like a pound heavier, but I hit my macros, what's going on? A lot of that is gonna have to do with these hormonal fluctuations that are going on. So in terms of hunger, we have two hormones called ghrelin and leptin. So ghrelin is the hormone that our body secretes when it's wanting us to eat. So it's not necessarily that we need to eat, but that's the hormone that happens if our body is letting us know that it wants to eat. And that goes up when our sleep isn't ideal and when we're doing shift work. So there's a physiological reason that you're like getting off shift and being like, I just want a Mars bar. And on the flip side, leptin levels go down, so we're not gonna feel quite as satiated by the food that we're eating. So I thought it was good to kind of run through why you're so hungry. And in my research, I found a little tidbit about what your body is kind of actually going through in a real life scenario. So it's kind of like you're going through jet lag, transitioning from day to nights or nights to days, an equivalent of going to Tokyo to San Francisco. So if you're like feeling run down, or you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like not hitting my macros, or I'm in the gym and things just aren't clicking, like your body is going through a lot. So a little bit of compassion for that might go a really long way, just to make sure that you're not kind of mentally beating down on yourself, because like it is difficult, and especially when you're first new to tracking macros, this is like a big undertaking to kind of figure out and like learn how your body is going to react, learn how you're going to feel, and just like continually communicate that with your coach, because every single person's experience is going to be different. Okay, so now into how to avoid falling into the vending machine. So I'm sure all of us have like had moments where we're hangry, and like what types of food do we crave? We want something that's high calorie, we want something that's usually high sugar. And that's because like our body is like, I need to eat. So it's gonna choose something that in our brain is gonna make us feel energized, and it's really high in calories. So that makes sense, but it's not necessarily gonna be the best in terms of sustaining our energy through a long shift where you're taking care of patients. Maybe you're a first responder, or you have some other job that needs you to be mentally sharp. So what we want to do is plan ahead. So understandably, if you're really tired from shift work on your days off, you might not want to be doing a whole bunch of meal prep, but setting aside time to like track ahead your food for those shifts and make sure it's all packed is going to make a world of difference. I'm not going to dive too much into meal prep because I have a lot to talk about as it is, but I will link to some other Facebook Lives and tips for meal prep below once I'm done. So what you're looking for in terms of food choices while you're on shift is going to be high fiber, high volume choices, and balanced snacks. So some examples could be lots of fruits and vegetables, complex grains, and in terms of some balanced snacks, it could be, I have like a list here. It could be something like hard-boiled eggs and fruit, oatmeal with chia seeds and Greek yogurt or some whey protein. You could take some high fiber wraps, put some deli meat on it with some cheese or avocado, just like little things that you can grab and go that are gonna be really quick. And I'm gonna talk more about how to get in your macros on shift, but a lot of times I have people who are like literally just so busy that they can't eat or can't stop to eat during their shift. And then when they get a break, they're so exhausted and hungry. So a great option if you are able to have liquids on you during a shift would be to have a smoothie, but not just fruit, like balance that out with some protein powder or some Greek yogurt and add in some like chia, flax seeds, nuts to make it more of a balanced meal in liquid form. That's gonna keep your like blood sugar better regulated and keep you like full-ish. I mean, the liquid calories aren't gonna be quite as filling, but that will make it feel a little more substantial and slow down your digestion, which is very helpful. So hydration, also very important. And I mean, I know I'd be slamming a bunch of coffees if I was up all night. And if you wanna have a coffee, that's totally cool. But in the same way that we during like normal sleep cycles don't want to be drinking a bunch of coffee right before bedtime, treat your night shift the same way. If you want to have a coffee, great, have it in the first half of your shift so that you can have that pick me up, enjoy your coffee, and then not be like hyping yourself up right before bedtime. And staying hydrated is really important for hunger, and it's gonna help you feel more energized and also play into other things in your day-to-day life, like training and recovery. So obviously water is a great option. So carry around a water bottle, have one with you, set a timer on your phone, or if you have like a Fitbit, something like that, just to prompt you through the day or through the night is gonna be fantastic to make sure you're getting that in. If you are kind of snacky and you just like flavors or need that sort of engagement in your palate to get through the night, flavored seltzers, diet soda, whatever it is that you wanna do, those are some great options as well. So as far as actually getting your macros in on shift, I've had a few people on the comments mention that they've kind of felt sick or nauseous after taking naps or having coworkers feel the same way. So if you know that at a certain point you're like taking a break or you start feeling nauseous at a certain point, try to kind of get in food before then if you can and break it up into smaller portions. So if you're sitting down and scarfing down a big meal because you're really busy on shift, that's probably not going to sit great in your stomach. So for a lot of people, I've had great success with having kind of like a snack bag. So they like track ahead, lots of different snacks. Maybe it's like a protein bar, a shake, a smoothie, some jerky, tuna packs, whatever it is that you like to eat, and just have that all pre-portioned and ready to go. So through your shift, you can just go and grab like a little quick snack, things that are low mess. So it makes it easier to kind of get that all in. If you're someone that isn't necessarily struggling with hunger a lot through shifts, liquid calories are great. So protein shakes, if you have a lot of carbs, like some Gatorade or some natural juice, smoothies are all great options. And again, we're kind of returning to the why. If we have the understanding that like we're probably going to be more hungry, we might have higher cravings because our hormones are kind of signaling to us that we want to eat or we should go after something really high density. Just like being aware of that and knowing that there's a reason for it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that like you're actually starving. You don't actually need to crush a bunch of chocolate. It's just your body's adjusting to a stress that it's going through. So just kind of like mentally talking yourself through that can be really, really helpful. And also I can imagine that with, night shifts, or the type of shift work that people do, it could often be very high stress. You're really busy. There could be a lot of emotions going on with like lots of typical shift work jobs. Or you might have a job where like you're not doing a heck of a lot because you're, pulling a night shift doing security. So kind of tuning into your body and seeing if you're truly hungry, or if you're just feeling stressed and need to calm down, or if you're feeling kind of bored and need something to do, or even just like eating as a way to like stay awake. You could chew gum, you could go for a walk, you could, fiddle with, like I'm fiddling with a hair tie right now, whatever it is that you need to do, but slowing down and maybe setting a timer for 5 minutes before you make a food choice could be really helpful. Okay. Oh, so this is a big one that we get is, how do you handle macros when you're transitioning on and off shifts? I'm going to do my absolute best to explain this in a concise way because it is a little hard. I wish I had like a whiteboard. So some people really just prefer to stick to like a general sleep-wake cycle where they just eat their macros basically while they're awake, and when they go to bed, that's the end of their day. And then when they wake back up, they start a new day of macros. They might not have like a lot of hunger, or they just don't really mind being hungry. If that works for you, that's fantastic. For most people, that doesn't always feel the best. So we'll talk about 48-hour macro windows, or like combining macros. So basically what that means, okay, this is where it gets complicated, is that traditionally you have like 24 hours to eat one set of your macros. So if you are transitioning off a shift and you're going to be awake for say 20 hours or a larger chunk of your day, you can borrow some macros from the following day. I would recommend not going too much into the next day macros, like maybe like 25, 35%, depending on what works for you. And again, you'll have to test this out. It's not going to be 100% perfect at first, and that's okay. Talk to your coach what you've found and they'll help you strategize. But that way you'll eat, say, 125% of your macros on day one, and then the next day, since you'll be sleeping more during the day or sleeping through the night and you won't be awake for as long, you can then eat a slightly less high volume of macros, less amount of macros, whatever you want to call it, just to kind of offset it. So basically, as long as from like the beginning of day one to the end of day two, you're eating 2 days of macros. You can split it up however you'd like, either way. And if that doesn't make sense, talk to your coach about it. But basically, you can just treat those 2 days like one giant day, and you have one giant set of macros that is double the amount that you're normally eating. And depending on your hunger and your schedule, you can adjust it however you prefer. And again, in terms of not ending hungry on the second day, if you're borrowing into macros, and even for the first day, you still want to be sticking to really high volume foods. Make sure you're including lots of vegetables. I would say, a good rule of thumb, if anyone's heard of the 800 gram challenge, shooting for 800 grams of vegetables is pretty much a surefire way not to be too hungry. If you can avoid liquid calories when you're off shift and make sure you're eating your protein, that's going to keep you more satiated as well. And again, just slowing down and making sure that you're truly hungry before eating. And last but not least, for sleep. So this is a big one. And honestly, you're going to be tired a little bit if you're basically going through jet lag. That's kind of part of the deal. And for the people that do shift work, you guys are honestly rock stars. So if you are transitioning off of, let's say if you have 2 weeks where you're doing nights and then you're switching to days for an extended chunk of time, you definitely do want to aim to kind of reset your sleep cycle onto a normal awake during the day, sleeping during the nighttime. And you can do that a couple of different ways. One of them that can be really helpful is using a melatonin supplement. Definitely talk to a pharmacist or your doctor to see if that's the right choice for you and the right dosing. But that can be really, really helpful just to get your body to start triggering melatonin naturally so that your body does adjust back to its usual sleep cycle. And again, we have to start to retrain our bodies. So when you are transitioning onto like a day shift, you want to start making sure that you're winding down at the same time. Each night you're getting into bed and really supporting your body to like realize like, oh, okay, it's time to go to sleep now. If you are not transitioning your shifts, but you just have a day off, a day or two off, as much as it might be tempting to try to reorganize your sleep schedule to like line up with your family and friends, it's generally not recommended to try to like switch it up if you don't want to be tired. You're not going to recover from that big of a jet lag overnight. So the best thing that you can do to kind of roll into your week and to feel your best during your weekend is to still allow yourself to stay on the typical sleep-wake cycle that you've been doing throughout your shift work. And that might mean like communicating to your family that you need to have like quiet time at a certain time, or that like, you know, mom is gonna hang out in her room for an hour before bed, like whatever it is that you need to do, just really kind of give yourself space to support getting some rest because you need it. And in terms of making sure that you're getting quality sleep while on shift, it's the same thing that you'd want to do during like a normal sleep-wake cycle. A couple hours before bed, you definitely want to make sure that you're not on screens. I've heard some people that will, when they're leaving work, put on sunglasses or like blue light blockers just to sort of mimic nighttime, and that you're not disrupting your melatonin levels with blue lights from like TVs or cell phones or things like that. But as much as you can, be off of your devices right before bed. If you don't have to train right after you get off shift, it's ideal not to, because that's going to kind of pump your adrenaline up. Just like if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock at night, you might not find it ideal to go train at 8 p.m. right before you're kind of trying to wind down. So if you can continue to think about what a solid bedtime routine would be, and like totally ask your coaches about this as well, that can really help to again, train your body to continually be in the same sort of routine so it knows that it's time to go to bed. And setting up your room to be conducive to high quality sleep is also going to help. You know, during the day, there's going to be more noise from outside. You may have neighbors. So earplugs, blackout curtains, a white noise machine can be really fantastic. Making sure it's a comfortable temperature, all of those things can really help increase your sleep quality. And when you are transitioning off shift, I forgot this point, like do let yourself sleep when you can, and don't force it necessarily having to be within 8 hours straight. So if you like go to bed and after 4 hours you're kind of like tossing and turning, get out of bed. Don't just lay there and kind of like half sleep nap for another couple hours, because that's going to make you kind of wake up feeling groggy. If you wake up and you're not really falling back asleep right away, get up, do some stuff. If you get really tired later in the day, have another nap for, 45 minutes, an hour. That's going to help recover you way better than having like a really long sleep length of just like poor quality sleep. So making sure that you're not just staying in bed all day. Give yourself some structure, and don't just like stay in bed for all day, basically. So that's everything that I had to cover. So if there's any questions, I don't see any that have popped up. So I'll wait for like literally a minute just in case anyone has any questions. But again, I will pop some tips for meal prep below, and this will be available on the YouTube live channel and on the page for anyone that happened to have missed it. Okay, post your comments below if you have them, and I'll get back to them. Thank you for spending a little bit of your Friday night with me, and I hope everyone has a wonderful WAG Unplugged. Have a good night.